North Song continent. Once a land of prosperity, now it lies in ruins. The vast earth, scarred by intense battles, bears the marks of violent struggles, making the continent appear riddled with wounds. The demon calamity ravages this land as well. In the face of the raging disaster, numerous factions on the North Song continent have been steadily defeated. In the end, they managed to gather together in a few strongholds, joining forces to fight against the calamity. However, the demon calamity on the North Song continent is particularly severe, and the strength of the extraterritorial evil clan is even more formidable. So, even with numerous factions uniting, the situation remains dire. And the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy is one of these strongholds. Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. A massive spirit array forms a protective light barrier, resembling an inverted bowl that envelopes the entire academy. The barrier emits a powerful and vibrant spiritual light, offering a great sense of security. Inside the academy, the atmosphere is bustling with noise. This is because the academy now houses not only the forces from other regions of the continent that have been defeated, but even the other 4 major spiritual academies, once equals to the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, have gathered here. The other 4 academies, each located on different continents, have also suffered the wrath of the demon calamity. Since each academy possesses a private teleportation spirit array, they used it in the final moments to send their students to the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. But perhaps the 4 academies did not expect that shortly after their arrival, the North Song continent would also fall victim to the calamity. With all the forces gathered here, the academy is now overcrowded and noisy. But at times like this, no one seems to care about such matters. At one corner of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, when viewed from above, the lake shines like a mirror, surrounded by training platforms. Beneath the shade of trees, dormitories are clustered together. Listen up, all members of the Luo God Society. Clear out any vacant dormitories and prepare them for the students from the other 4 academies. While we are competitors in normal times, we can't let others think that our Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy lacks grace in this crisis. By the lake, around a large rock, a group of young boys and girls are gathered. They gaze up at the rock, where a girl stands, poised and graceful. She has a bright, captivating face, and her dark hair is tied into a ponytail, swaying as her lively voice rings out, radiating youthful energy. The girl looks at the crowd of young boys and girls, smiling brightly. And don't forget who founded our Luo God Society. Although Senior Mu Chen and Senior Luo Li have graduated and left, the society was founded by them, and we must not tarnish their legacy. Big Sister Xun'er is right. Don't worry, our Luo God Society is not so petty. We'll make sure the students from the other academies are well accommodated. Only by uniting will we protect our Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. Her voice rings out, and immediately countless voices echo in agreement. The young boys and girls wave their arms and shout excitedly. The girl named Xun'er nods in satisfaction at the sight. Not far away, a few figures stand, watching the scene. A smile unconsciously appears on their faces as they observe the lively interaction. Xun'er's doing really well. If Mu Chen and Luo Li saw this, they'd probably be shocked. Back then, she was the little girl trailing behind them, and now she's the most popular president of the Luo God Society, second only to them. A handsome young man, full of charisma, looks at Xun'er surrounded by the crowd and laughs. I've heard that Xun'er is now a Spirit Array Grandmaster. The headmaster of Taisong Academy even opened a Spirit Array Academy just for her, where she teaches students the art of spirit arrays. She's truly impressive. Her achievements now far exceed ours from back then. A more solemn-faced man standing beside him smiles, impressed. You two shouldn't be so nostalgic. But I never expected both of you to return to the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy at this time. A clear-voiced woman beside them says with a smile. It's no wonder she's surprised, for the 2 men before her are none other than the legends of their generation, Shun Songxing and Li Xiantong. After graduating, they went to explore the great 1,000 worlds, and now both are peak Earth Supremes, just a step away from becoming Heavenly Supremes. Such achievements are indeed remarkable. We are, after all, from the Northern Song Spiritual Academy. Now that the Academy is in trouble, it is only natural that we should come to its aid. Shen Songxing said with a faint smile. Li Xiantong also nodded, giving a smile to the graceful woman beside him, saying, "It's you, Yu Qi Ling, who has been staying at the Northern Song Spiritual Academy all these years. Now, you've become the vice principal. I don't have the same grand ambitions as you two. Staying at the Northern Song Spiritual Academy is just fine for me." Yu Qi Ling smiled lightly. In response, both Shen Songxing and Li Xiantong nodded and said slowly, "Staying here at the Northern Song Spiritual Academy is indeed quite nice. At the very least, it allows us to maintain a lot of purity." Their expressions were somewhat complex. It seemed that all the years of their journeys had caused them to experience quite a lot. Well, the once great duo of Northern Song, you two seemed to be feeling quite nostalgic. At that moment, a teasing, melodious laugh rang out. Shen Songxing and the others looked over, and they saw two graceful figures walking toward them. The first of the two figures wore purple clothes and pants. Her slender figure accentuated her alluring curves, and a bright smile graced her beautiful face. It was none other than Wen Qinxian. Next to her stood another beautiful woman, also lively and charming, Tang Xun'er, who was now the vice principal of the 10,000 Phoenix Spiritual Academy. Wen Qinxian. Li Xiantong looked at the familiar face in surprise and laughed. "What are you doing out here instead of staying with your Wen family?" Wen Qinxian smiled sweetly. "There are so many people in the Wen family. Staying there wouldn't make much of a difference." She then looked at Yu Qi Ling and Tang Xun'er both and said with a smile, "We should thank the Luo God Society for helping to arrange the students from the 10,000 Phoenix Spiritual Academy." Yu Qi Ling waved her hand. "In such a situation, only by sticking together can we have a chance of survival. Helping you is also helping our Northern Song Spiritual Academy." Wen Qinxian sighed softly when she heard this. Her voice became a little lower as she said, "Whether we can survive, it's hard to say. Right now, the only one who has broken through to the Heavenly Supreme Realm at the Northern Song Spiritual Academy is Lord Long Cohen. The extraterritorial evil clan is surrounding us but not attacking. If their demon emperor takes action, the situation could become very dire." The others fell silent. Clearly, they all understood how grim the situation was. Xun'er and the others are secretly constructing a teleportation spirit array. If the situation collapses, the only option will be to try to send the students out, Yu Qi Ling said, her face showing some weariness as she spoke in a low voice. In the face of such a situation, the power of just the Northern Song Spiritual Academy seemed utterly insignificant. Li Xiantong fell silent for a moment before suddenly saying, "If Mu Chen and Luo Li were here, they might be able to make a difference." At the mention of these two names, everyone fell silent. It was clear that their memories of them were still very fresh. Luo Li might have some news, but Mu Chen, we haven't heard from him in almost 5 years. Wen Qinxian frowned slightly. Shen Songxing nodded and said in a deep voice, "That guy could cause quite a stir a few years ago, but these past years, he has completely disappeared from sight. There are many rumors circulating in the Great Thousand Worlds now, saying that Mu Chen was scared by the extraterritorial evil clan and has been hiding somewhere." Wen Qinxian added with some irritation, "That's nonsense." When Qinxian snapped, Mu Chen's personality could never do something like that. Mu Chen is definitely not a weak person. With his nature, he would never fear any enemy. So his disappearance over the years must have its reasons, and it's definitely not because of fear or running away, Tang Xun'er said seriously. Li Xiantong sighed. In the past, Mu Chen's reputation was so overwhelming that it naturally attracted jealousy. Now that he's disappeared, it's inevitable that there will be rumors. Everyone could only sigh in resignation. Rumors and gossip were often the most frustrating and anger-inducing things. "He will show up again," Yu Qi Ling said softly, her voice firm. She thought back to the confident and charismatic young man from many years ago at the Spiritual Academy, full of life and energy. He had always maintained strong confidence, never backing down from any enemy. Back then, wasn't it because of that confidence that they had all gathered around him, formed the Luo God Society, and carried it forward until today? So, she believed that no matter how many hardships Mu Chen had faced over the years, he would never change. That person will undoubtedly appear, and when he does, perhaps the entire Great Thousand Worlds will turn their gaze upon him. Yi Qingling's beautiful eyes turned towards the giant rock where Xun'er stood not far away, as though she could see the confident young man who stood there when the Luo God Society was first founded, full of ambition. Mu Chen, may you venture through half a lifetime and return as you were, forever youthful. Well, just as they were lost in memories of that person, a harsh alarm suddenly rang out from within the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. The sound made them all freeze, their expressions changing in an instant. They looked up towards the outside of the academy, where the sky and earth were now thick with demonic aura, rolling and approaching. The extraterritorial evil clan had begun their attack. The mournful alarm echoed throughout the entire Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. In the next moment, what had already been a noisy scene inside the academy erupted into even greater chaos. Countless fearful gazes turned towards the spirit array, and in the distance, the sky was filled with a thick, rolling demonic aura, quickly sweeping towards them. The extraterritorial evil clan is making their move. By the lakeside, Yu Qi-ling, Shen Songshan, Wen Qin Xian, and the others watched this scene, their faces turning grim, their bodies tensed. Sister. Xun'er swiftly flew over and landed beside Yu Qi-ling, her bright eyes filled with concern. Yu Qi-ling took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "Calm the students, ensure there's no panic. Prepare for the worst. If the situation collapses, we'll evacuate the students through the teleportation spirit array." The extraterritorial evil clan was formidable, and relying solely on the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy to block their advance would be like an ant trying to shake a tree. They had to prepare for the worst. Xun'er bit her lower lip, but understanding the disparity in power, she nodded firmly. "Everyone, after so many years, we are once again going to fight side by side." Yu Qi-ling looked at Shen Songshan, Li Xiantong, and the others, then smiled. Shen Songshan smiled faintly, with no trace of fear in his eyes. Gripping his palm, a long spear appeared. He turned to Li Xiantong and said, "You always lagged behind me back then. How about we have another contest?" Gladly, Li Xiantong replied with a smile, his spiritual energy swirling as his robe billowed. "With me here, there's no need for you two to steal the spotlight." When Qingxuan's lips curved into a subtle smile, radiating confidence that made her look like a proud peacock, just as dazzling as she had been in the past. Roar. Just as they were filled with battle intent, a thunderous dragon's roar suddenly rang out within the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. A black light shot into the sky, revealing the figure of an elder. It was an old man, his head bald and his expression cold, surrounded by crackling thunder, exuding an overwhelming aura of power. "It's Lord Long Kun." The moment the old man appeared, a huge cheer erupted within the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. Many students looked at him with fiery eyes, as Long Kun's name was well known in the academy. However, despite the cheers, Long Kun's face remained stern. He gazed at the approaching demonic aura, and his skin tingled with a painful sensation. Clearly, he had sensed that among the extraterritorial evil clan, there were some extremely powerful beings. Shush. Shush. Within the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, numerous beams of light shot out, standing behind Long Kun. These were the strongest members from the 5 great academies. The figure of Grand Song, the academy's headmaster, also appeared beside Long Kun. Looking at the latter's expression, his heart sank slightly. "Grand Song, prepare for the worst." Long Kun sighed and spoke in a low voice upon noticing Grand Song's gaze. Grand Song shuddered involuntarily. A deep sorrow appeared in his eyes as he never imagined that one day, the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy would be destroyed under his watch. "If that's the case, I'll have no choice but to fight with this old body and buy time for the students to escape," Grand Song said firmly, his hands clenched into fists. As the headmaster of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, he could never abandon the students. Long Kun smiled and patted Grand Song on the shoulder. "I've guarded this academy for so many years. If the academy falls today, I'll go down with it." Grand Song opened his mouth to say something but was interrupted by Long Kun's wave. He could only bow deeply to him in response. Whoosh. Shen Songshan, Li Xiantong, Wen Qin Xian, Yu Qi-ling, and the others also soared into the air at this moment, arriving behind Headmaster Taitsong and the others. "Headmaster, we are willing to live and die with the Spirit Academy," they declared. Taitsong looked at them, his eyes filled with a sense of gratification. "You children have all surpassed your masters, but you are the hope for the future. There is no need for you to accompany the Northern Song Spirit Academy to its demise. I hope you can do your best to help some of the students escape later. This will leave a spark for our Northern Song Spirit Academy." Shen Songshan and the others fell silent, gazing at the hopeful look in the elderly man's eyes. They couldn't bring themselves to refuse his request. In the end, they could only bow respectfully. "Headmaster, don't worry. We will do our utmost." Taitsong nodded in satisfaction before turning his head, his expression serious as he gazed beyond the Northern Song Spirit Academy. The rolling demonic aura had already reached nearly a 10,000-meter radius. Through the demonic mist, countless ruthless demonic shadows could already be seen. Activate the spirit array with all your might. A deep voice boomed from North Abyss Dragon Kuan. Instantly, the powerful figures maintaining the spirit array within the academy poured their spiritual energy into the array, strengthening the large protective shield surrounding the Northern Song Spirit Academy. This protective spirit array can resist the attacks of several heavenly supremes. This is our final line of defense, North Abyss Dragon Kuan said slowly as he watched the spiritual light radiating from the shield. If this array was breached, they would be left with no choice but to fight with their lives. I hope the spirit array can protect our spirit academy, the others silently prayed. The surging demonic energy in the heavens and earth finally began to subside, and the entire world seemed to fall into a deathly silence, even the wind disappearing without a trace. The previously noisy Northern Song Spirit Academy fell into quietness as well. Countless gazes, filled with fear, trembled as they looked at the endless demonic mist outside the academy. The demonic mist churned, suddenly transforming into black skulls that slowly floated out. Each skull was surrounded by a demonic figure, and terrifying waves of demonic energy spread like a storm. 7 demon emperors. Seeing these 7 demonic figures, a chorus of despair rose within the Northern Song Spirit Academy, and even North Abyss Dragon Kuan's face turned grim. Though he knew that the appearance of demon emperors was inevitable, he hadn't expected 7 of them to show up at once, each one as powerful as he was. Is this the will of heaven to destroy my Northern Song Spirit Academy? Headmaster Taitsong trembled, muttering to himself. Boom. Boom. The 7 demon emperors looked coldly at the desperate people within the Northern Song Spirit Academy, saying not a word before launching their attacks. Waves of demonic energy surged through the air, crashing violently into the massive shield. Bang. Bang. Faced with the 7 demon emperors' onslaught, the spirit array's protective shield rippled violently, the spiritual energy within it rapidly depleting. If the teleportation spirit array is ready, begin evacuating the students immediately. Headmaster Taitsong ordered, his voice shaking. Someone immediately took the command and rushed to act. Given the situation, it was clear that once the array was shattered, no one would be able to resist the extraterritorial evil clan. Even North Abyss Dragon Kuan wouldn't stand a chance. Once the array breaks, I'll try to hold off as many demon emperors as I can. As for the rest, it's up to your luck. North Abyss Dragon Kuan's face, previously tense, suddenly became calm as he stared at the array, his gaze turning thoughtful. He turned to Headmaster Taitsong and smiled. Speaking of which, I'm reminded of that little fellow from the Spirit Academy. My Thunder God body was taught to me by him. You mean Mu Chen, that kid? He's not ordinary now. There were rumors that even the immortal grade Heavenly Supreme couldn't do anything to him in recent years. Headmaster Taitsong chuckled softly. But for some reason, he has disappeared. People say he was scared off by the extraterritorial evil clan, but I know that kid's temperament. He would never be that kind of person. North Abyss Dragon Kuan smiled faintly. Anyone who could endure the black divine thunder to cultivate the Thunder God body would never lack courage. The world is simply ignorant. Boom. Boom. As they spoke, the shield of the spirit array became increasingly thin, and finally, amidst countless horrified gazes, it shattered in a thunderous explosion. With the array destroyed, the Northern Song Spirit Academy was fully exposed to the predatory gaze of the extraterritorial evil clan. Kill. The 7 demon emperors' cold and menacing gazes instantly locked onto the North Abyss Dragon Kuan. In this place, only the latter could make them feel the slightest bit of threat. Without hesitation, the 7 of them simultaneously surged forward, each striking out with a palm. 7 demonic fists ruthlessly hammered toward North Abyss Dragon Kuan. Locked onto by the 7 demon emperors, North Abyss Dragon Kuan's face darkened. His body suddenly erupted with dazzling black thunderlight, making him look like a thunder god. He took a step forward, his hands coming together, and then slammed out horizontally. Black Thunder God Palm. The black thunderlight surged like a mighty avalanche, shaking the space as it collided fiercely with the 7 demonic fists. Bang! Bang! The entire world seemed to tremble. The 2 terrifying forces tangled together, but the black thunderlight still couldn't stand up to the overwhelming power of 7. It was eventually torn apart, and the remaining energy slammed into North Abyss Dragon Kuan's body from a distance. Boom. North Abyss Dragon Kuan's body shuddered, his clothes torn apart as blood spurted from his mouth. His aura faltered, and he was severely wounded. Lord North Abyss. Within the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, countless students erupted into cries of anguish. Their eyes were filled with terror and despair. Who could have imagined that the seemingly invincible being in their eyes would be so heavily injured with just one exchange? Take them and go. North Abyss Dragon Kohen's face turned pale as he growled. Chaos broke out within the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. Under the guidance of some of the instructors, the students began fleeing deeper into the academy. With a roar, North Abyss Dragon Kohen's blood-red eyes fixed on the 7 demon emperors floating in the air. He charged forward with all his might, his momentum filled with the intent to die. Faced with 7 enemies of the same rank, North Abyss Dragon Kohen knew he had no chance of winning. In that case, he would resort to self-detonation to buy time for these students. Raging spiritual energy began to stir within North Abyss Dragon Kohen's body, releasing a terrifying fluctuation. The 7 demon emperors noticed his movement, and their faces changed slightly. One of them coldly commanded, "Eradicate him." The 7 demon emperors acted almost in unison. Demonic energy surged and transformed into 7 demonic swords, shooting toward him. Lord North Abyss. In midair, Shun Tsangxing, Li Xiantong, Yi Qingling, and the others gazed at this scene, their bodies freezing. A trace of sorrow appeared in their eyes. They knew that this attack would be enough to erase North Abyss Dragon Kohen. You all withdraw. The headmaster of the Grand Song Academy watched the scene expressionlessly, his nails digging into his palm, and blood began to drip from his hand. Shun Tsangxing and the others exchanged looks, gritting their teeth and stepping back with reddened eyes. Whoosh! In the sky, the 7 demonic swords pierced the void, slicing through space with a vicious and deadly arc, targeting North Abyss Dragon Kohen's vital points. The very fabric of space seemed to tear apart. Buzz! Buzz! However, just as everyone was about to witness North Abyss Dragon Kohen's fall, suddenly 2 resonating hums filled the air. Then, 2 dazzling pillars of spiritual light descended from the sky. One landed before the 7 demonic swords, and its radiance washed over them, causing the 7 demonic swords to vanish into nothingness in an instant. The other pillar of spiritual light engulfed the 3 demon emperors. Its overwhelming spiritual energy surged, and before they could even scream, they were completely wiped out before the eyes of countless horrified onlookers. Shun Tsangxing, Li Xiantong, and the others, who had been retreating, froze in place. They stared in disbelief at this sudden turn of events. As everyone was stunned by the scene unfolding before them, the space behind North Abyss Dragon Kohen rippled, and a graceful figure slowly emerged. She extended a jade hand and gently placed it on his shoulder, instantly calming the violent spiritual energy within him that had been on the verge of exploding. With the raging spiritual energy now subdued, North Abyss Dragon Kohen stood frozen, then turned his stiff body. He was greeted by the sight of an exquisite face, slightly fatigued from the long journey. Seeing North Abyss Dragon Kohen's dazed gaze, the beautiful girl playfully smiled and winked at him, her soft voice carrying through the air. "Senior Long Kohen, you can't self-destruct here. If you do, I'm afraid I won't be able to explain it to Mu Chen when he returns." The girl's light laughter filled the air, while within the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, all eyes were fixed on her breathtakingly beautiful face. The headmaster of the Grand Song Academy, Shen Sangshan, Li Xiantong, Wen Qin Xian, and the others couldn't help but gape at the scene. A voice of astonishment quietly sounded. "That's Luo Li. Luo Li." As they gazed at the stunning figure suddenly appearing in the sky, everyone who knew her couldn't help but exclaim, their eyes filled with disbelief. Luo Li. Many students from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy were unfamiliar with this name, but it didn't hinder their shock. As soon as that breathtaking figure appeared, she effortlessly annihilated 3 demon emperors. Her power was terrifying. But she's so beautiful. In the midst of their awe, countless young men and women were struck speechless, their eyes wide with admiration. The girl in the sky was so extraordinary. Not only was her beauty flawless, but her aura also left them in awe. Compared to her, all the girls in the spiritual academy who were once considered princess-like were now overshadowed. She really is Senior Luo Li. Xun'er also tilted her head, gazing at the elegant figure with excitement, whispering in amazement. "Xun'er, who is that?" Around Xun'er, Several members of the Luo God Society, who had been planning to head to the teleportation spirit array earlier, now looked in awe at the dazzling figure. They murmured, sensing that the name seemed vaguely familiar. "You idiots!" Xun'er rolled her eyes at them, puffing out her chest proudly. "Didn't I tell you countless times? Our Luo God Society has two founders, Senior Mu Chen and Senior Luo Li." All the members of the Luo God Society immediately widened their eyes in disbelief as they stared at the stunning figure. Then, they excitedly exclaimed, "Oh my God, so that's Senior Luo Li, one of the founders of our Luo God Society. Senior Luo Li is so powerful. Even the demon emperors are no match for her." The admiration in the eyes of the young women was about to overflow. "She's also so beautiful." The young men were blushing, wanting to steal another glance, but they were too stunned by her presence, not daring to look away. Meanwhile, members of other organizations at the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy looked at them with envious glances. Such stares only made the Luo God Society members prouder and more invigorated. Normally, these organizations competed fiercely with them, but now, when it came to their founder, they had to admit defeat. "I didn't expect. She's become this strong," Xin Songxing and Li Xianong remarked, their eyes complex as they watched the stunning figure. Back then, Luo Li's strength had been similar to theirs. Yet, years had passed. While they were still climbing towards the Heavenly Supreme, Luo Li had already reached a level where she could casually obliterate demon emperors. Luo Li had her own opportunities. We shouldn't belittle ourselves. In a few years, we'll also step into the realm of Heavenly Supreme, when Qin Xian, showing no surprise, said with a slight smile, her eyes intensely fixed on Luo Li in the sky. Xin Songxing and Li Xianong, both resolute individuals, nodded in agreement. Now that Luo Li is here, things should get better. Under countless excited gazes, Luo Li, in the sky, sensed the spiritual energy in the North Abyss Dragon Kuan's body gradually calming down. She slowly withdrew her hand. The North Abyss Dragon Kuan had also recovered from its earlier shock, looking at Luo Li with confusion before clasping his hands in gratitude. "Thank you." But it seemed he didn't recognize Luo Li. After all, when he had seen her last, she was just a young girl, beautiful, but still somewhat immature. Now, Luo Li had cultivated the Luotian divine body, and her presence was nothing short of mesmerizing. Luo Li smiled lightly and said, "I am Luo Li, a former student of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. The thunder god body that Senior Mu Chen cultivated was taught by you." Mu Chen. The North Abyss Dragon Kuan froze, then suddenly realized, his eyes widening in surprise. "So it's you, the little girlfriend of Mu Chen back then." He awkwardly chuckled, for Luo Li's beauty was so striking that even speaking casually to her seemed like an affront. Luo Li didn't mind, instead lightly nodding her head, a soft and sweet smile curling at the corner of her lips, as this place held the most precious memories of her and Mu Chen. Whoosh! At that moment, the headmaster of the Grand Song Academy sped over and landed next to the North Abyss Dragon Kuan. Looking at Luo Li, he sighed, "I never expected that the little girl from back then has become so formidable. Luo Li, I'll thank you on behalf of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy for your help." Luo Li quickly stopped the headmaster's bow, then teased with a playful smile, "I'm also a student of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. Helping the academy is only natural. Could it be that the headmaster doesn't recognize me as one of your students?" Hearing Luo Li's teasing, the headmaster couldn't help but laugh wryly. "You little girl, still as tough as ever." Luo Li smiled lightly, then her beautiful eyes shifted toward the billowing demonic aura outside the Northern Song Spiritual Academy. Previously, she had led the charge and slain 3 of the 7 demon emperors, leaving 4 others glaring at her with grim expressions. "You really have guts, daring to resist." The 4 demon emperors stared at Luo Li with dark eyes, their voices cold and filled with menace. "Since that's the case, after breaking through this academy, none of you will escape." The murderous words sent a chill through the crowd. Only Luo Li remained calm, her face serene as she glanced at the 4 demon emperors and said, "With your few Xin demon emperors, you dare speak here? Perhaps when a heavenly demon emperor arrives, it might be worth listening to." Hearing the disregard in Luo Li's voice, the 4 demon emperors' expressions shifted. Their eyes grew fierce, locking onto Luo Li. Buzz. Just as they were about to lead their forces forward, a commotion erupted from behind. Several streaks of spiritual light shot through the air, tearing apart the suffocating demonic aura and transforming into flashes of light that landed beside Luo Li. "Luo Li, you really ran too fast." The light flickered, revealing Lin Jing, panting heavily. Luo Li had pushed herself to the limit to reach the Northern Song Spiritual Academy. Luo Li lightly patted Lin Jing's back and turned to Xiao Xiao. Have the arrangements been made? Xiao Xiao nodded. The rest of the forces have been dispatched to other gathering points under attack by the extraterritorial evil clan. Luo Li nodded slightly. Then let's deal with this place first. Leave these four to us. Xiao Xiao's phoenix eyes glinted as she looked at the four demon emperors, eager for the fight. Lin Jing beside her also brightened, nodding in agreement. All right, be careful. Luo Li smiled and nodded. She knew the two women's strength, dealing with four Xian demon emperors wouldn't be a problem. Xiao Xiao and Lin Jing exchanged a glance, then transformed into streaks of light and shot forward, vast spiritual power surging as they surrounded two of the Xian demon emperors. Seeking death. The four Xian demon emperors roared in fury. Demonic aura surged like 1,000 beasts roaring as it rushed toward Xiao Xiao and Lin Jing. Boom. Boom. The battle erupted, and the ground shook as violent shockwaves spread out. The clash was fierce. Within the Northern Song Spiritual Academy, countless eyes were glued to the ongoing battle. As the fight intensified, it became clear that although Xiao Xiao and Lin Jing were each facing two enemies, they were slowly gaining the upper hand. Everyone around them showed signs of relief. Luo Li glanced over, then shifted her gaze back to the endless demonic aura surging from behind. Her eyes flashed with a slight gleam. Devouring Shadow Serpent. Xiao Xiao's body radiated seven-colored spiritual light. A surge of power shattered two demonic lights, and suddenly, her hands formed a seal. The rainbow light spiraled out and transformed into a massive seven-colored serpent. Its gaping mouth opened wide, as though to devour the heavens and the earth, swallowing one of the demon emperors whole before he could react. The rainbow light swirled, and a dreadful scream echoed from within the serpent as the demon emperor's presence completely vanished. Mystic Heaven Jade Whip. On Lin Jing's side, there was no hesitation in her actions. With a flick of her jade-like hand, she gathered her spiritual energy, forming a jade whip that she swung mercilessly. It struck a demon emperor squarely on the crown, shattering his body and dispersing the demonic aura. The two women, one the daughter of the Flame Emperor and the other the daughter of the martial ancestor, had deep and powerful lineages. Against opponents of the same level, they were clearly not at a disadvantage. How terrifying! Shouts of astonishment erupted from within the Northern Song Spiritual Academy, clearly awed by their lethal abilities. The remaining two demon emperors were terrified by their power. Their faces turned pale as they quickly retreated. Think you can escape? Xiao Xiao and Lin Jing both sneered, their minds commanding the serpent and jade whip to tear through the void and pursue their enemies. Seeing the deadly pursuit, the two demon emperors turned pale with fear, and one of them finally screamed, "Master, help us." Just as their cries echoed, deep within the dark, suffocating demonic aura, a pair of cold, sinister eyes slowly opened. A chilling voice followed. "Useless fools." As the voice fell, a pale hand emerged from the demonic aura. With a single wave, it scattered the serpent and sent the jade whip flying. The pale hand struck, sending Xiao Xiao and Lin Jing's attacks flying. Before the two demon emperors could rejoice, the hand reached out and grabbed them into its palm. With a deafening crack, the delighted expressions on their faces froze and then shattered, their bodies exploding into a cloud of mist. The brutal scene sent a chill down the spines of everyone in the Northern Spirit Academy, causing them to gasp in shock. Xiao Xiao and Lin Jing's delicate faces also changed slightly, their expressions turning serious as they stared into the boundless demonic aura. Within it, they faintly sensed an extremely terrifying aura of demonic energy beginning to awaken. Luo Li's beautiful eyes narrowed at that moment, and she slowly said, "Is it finally going to reveal itself?" Earlier, she had sensed a subtle yet unfathomable wave of demonic energy, clearly indicating that a powerful demon emperor was hidden here. The world fell silent. The wave of demonic energy gradually dispersed in layers, and then, everyone saw with wide eyes that deep within the demonic fog, there was a white bone throne. Beneath it, it seemed like a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. On the throne sat a pale-faced demonic figure, exuding an overwhelming aura of death, like a god of death himself. Luo Li, Xiao Xiao, and Lin Jing looked at the demonic figure sitting on the skeleton throne, their faces all visibly changed in shock, their voices faltering. "Is that the Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor? Damn it, how could even he have secretly infiltrated the Great Thousand Worlds?" Endless demonic energy surged as the skeleton throne hovered above the swirling demonic aura. The demonic figure, like a demon god, sat on the throne with emotionless, dull gray eyes. A terrifying, Oppressive demonic might slowly radiated from him, plunging the world into darkness and cold. Countless gazes from within the Northern Spirit Academy were filled with horror as they stared at the Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor. Though they did not know his identity, the terrifying pressure alone made it clear that compared to the previous demon emperors, this one was on an entirely different level. This was a true giant demon, the heavenly demon emperor. Even the North Abyss Dragon Kuan's face turned pale, his body trembling slightly. He could sense that the figure on the skeleton throne was undoubtedly a heavenly demon emperor, and not just any heavenly demon emperor, but one at the very peak of power. This was equivalent to the top-tier Saint-grade heavenly supreme. Whether in the extraterritorial evil clan or the Great Thousand Worlds, he was at the highest level. None of them had expected that such a terrifying being would emerge in their northern spirit continent's demon calamity. In the sky above, Luo Li, Xiao Xiao, and Lin Jing's faces grew increasingly solemn. They all understood the power of the Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor. It was on par with the top-tier saint grades like Qin Tian and the azure-robed sword saint. The Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor's cold gaze slowly locked onto the three women. His chilling voice echoed through the air, bringing with it an overwhelming murderous intent. 7 of my demon emperors have fallen at your hands. To honor them, this continent will not leave a single soul alive. Within the Northern Spirit Academy, countless students were trembling in fear, unable to bear the immense murderous pressure. The overwhelming aura of a top-tier heavenly demon emperor was far too terrifying for them to handle. Luo Li's eyes flashed with cold light. She spoke in a frosty tone, for the mighty Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor to sneak behind and target the weak, rather than confront the top experts of the Great Thousand Worlds on the front lines. Isn't that a bit beneath your dignity? The Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor glanced up indifferently and replied, war is ruthless. Fairness is a joke. Luo Li understood that further words were futile, so she stopped speaking. Her eyes grew colder, and with a light motion of her hand, the Tailing ancient scroll slowly materialized, radiating a boundless wave of spiritual energy. Since that's the case, I can only stop you here. Luo Li's voice was as cold as ice, but there was no trace of fear in her tone. The Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor slightly tilted his head. His dull gray eyes fixed on Luo Li, and a sneer seemed to curl at the corner of his mouth. You? With just you? Luo Li's flawless face remained calm. She spoke softly, the news here has already spread. As long as I can hold you off for a little while, powerful experts will soon arrive to deal with you. The Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor narrowed his eyes and sneered. I fear you are nothing more than an ant trying to shake a tree. You won't even last a moment. Boom. As his words fell, boundless demonic energy erupted from his body, transforming into a massive pale hand that descended from the sky, slamming down toward Luo Li. The hand radiated a deathly aura. Should it strike, all spiritual energy would be devoured, and life itself would be extinguished. Facing the attack of the Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor, Xiao Xiao and Lin Jing's expressions both changed slightly. Given their level of power, it was clear they were not yet a match for him. Even Luo Li had to rely on the sacred artifact of the Tailing ancient clan, the Tailing ancient scroll, to be able to engage in battle with him. Therefore, Luo Li stepped forward and slowly unfurled the ancient scroll in her hand. A flash of spiritual light shot out from it, rising into the air and transforming into an enormous spirit umbrella. The spirit umbrella opened, its surface engraved with ancient runes, and vast spiritual energy spiraled around it. Even a saint-grade heavenly supreme would be astounded by its might. Boom. A giant hand slammed onto the spirit umbrella, and it was as if the entire world was shaken by a thunderous roar. The visible ripples of force spread outward, affecting the land for miles. Faced with such a vicious blow, the spirit umbrella trembled violently, and eventually, the spiritual light shattered, the umbrella's surface breaking apart into countless light particles. However, despite the umbrella's destruction, it had at least managed to block the terrifying strike of the Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor. Countless people in the Northern Song Spiritual Academy secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Only Luo Li could confront the Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor here. If she were to fall, then today, there would truly be no hope for survival. Although she had withstood the Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor's blow, Luo Li's face grew even more solemn, for only she could truly sense the terrifying nature of her opponent. Even with the power of the Tailing ancient scroll, it was still a struggle. You have some skill. The Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor was also slightly surprised, letting out a light laugh, though his laughter was filled with a chilling murderous intent. Since you wish to protect these people, I'll erase them right before your eyes." A strange, cruel smile curled at the corners of the Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor's lips, and then he took a deep breath. A vast wave of demonic energy surged into his nostrils, and after a few moments, he forcefully exhaled. Whoosh! The thick demonic aura swept outward, transforming into a downpour of black rain, each drop containing the power of death itself. SSSHH. As the black rain hit the ground, the earth immediately turned dark, and all life was drained away. Mountains crumbled, rapidly withering and collapsing. Luo Li's delicate face changed drastically. She sensed the terrifying power of the black rain. If it fell, the entire Northern Song Spiritual Academy would be wiped out in an instant. The cruelty of the Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor's methods sent chills down her spine. At this moment, Luo Li couldn't afford to slacken for even a second. With quick gestures, she formed seals with her jade hands, and the tiling ancient scroll slowly ascended. Waves of spiritual light shot out from it, coalescing into clouds of spiritual energy that hovered above the Northern Song Spiritual Academy. The spiritual clouds were dense, filled with immense spiritual power. SSSHH. The black rain began to fall and collided with the spiritual clouds, emitting hissing sounds. The spiritual clouds churned as they were gradually eroded. But the clash wasn't earth-shattering, it was far more dangerous. Everyone within the Northern Song Spiritual Academy stared fearfully at the sky. They all understood that if the spiritual clouds couldn't hold, the next moment, the entire academy would be filled with corpses. The spiritual clouds and the demonic rain continued to clash, and the vast spiritual energy was being rapidly consumed. Luo Li's face became even more grim. She could feel the energy in the tiling ancient scroll depleting quickly, but she dared not retreat. She could only keep urging the scroll's power forward. However, it was becoming evident to everyone that the spiritual energy emerging from the tiling ancient scroll was slowly failing to keep up with the rate of consumption. As a result, the thick spiritual clouds began to thin. The Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor gazed indifferently at this scene, his smile becoming increasingly mocking. The demonic rain poured down, and the spiritual clouds grew ever fainter. Luo Li's face showed a hint of pallor, but she still gritted her teeth, unwilling to step back. Within the Northern Song Spiritual Academy, countless students were gripped by terror, their bodies trembling. Some of the more faint-hearted ones had already begun to sob in fear. Standing together, the North Abyss Dragon Kuan and the Grand Song Academy headmaster exchanged a glance, both seeing the bitterness in each other's eyes. The hope that had arisen when Luo Li and the others appeared had now completely vanished. Facing such a top-tier heavenly demon emperor, they could barely even summon the will to escape. Tang Xun'er stood beside Wen Qingxian, her pale face gazing at the confrontation in the sky. Her delicate hands trembled as she reached into her collar and pulled out a jade talisman, clutching it tightly in both hands. Once, Mu Chen had told her that if she encountered danger, she should crush this jade. But it had been years since she had heard from him, and she had no idea what his situation was now. So, Tang Xun'er hesitated to do so recklessly. The spirit cloud is dispersing. Suddenly, someone screamed in fear. In the sky, the spirit cloud grew thinner and thinner, and finally, amidst the hopeless gazes, it vanished completely. As the spirit cloud dispersed, the Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor looked down cruelly at the despairing eyes, giving a slight smile. He waved his sleeve, and the vast demonic rain gathered together, forming a black water orb about 100 feet in size. Inside the orb was a terrifying aura of death. Now, you will all die together. The Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor chuckled softly. With a flick of his finger, the black water orb shot out at high speed, its deathly power radiating, ready to extinguish all life on this continent. Tang Xun'er trembled, gritted her teeth, and with a firm grip, the jade talisman in her hand shattered. In the high sky, Luo Li's delicate face turned pale. She watched the black water orb coming towards her, still gritting her teeth and unwilling to retreat. Her trembling hands held the tiling ancient scroll, attempting to channel spiritual energy again. Though she knew that with her current strength, even with the tiling ancient scroll in hand, she would still be unable to resist the Black Corp's heavenly demon emperor. Her slender, delicate figure stood at the very front, a scene of tragic beauty. In the Northern Song Spiritual Academy, countless people closed their eyes in despair, awaiting death. Shen Sangshan, Li Xiantong, Wen Qingxian, and others all sighed heavily. Is this the end of everything? The Grand Song Academy headmaster let out a powerless sigh. Boom. The dark magic orb finally exploded when it neared the Northern Song Spiritual Academy. Death seemed to transform into a sea of death, rushing down like a torrent. One roll could obliterate countless people below. Luo Li's jade-like hand gripped the tiling ancient scroll, and spiritual light erupted, preparing for a final resistance. However, at that moment, Luo Li suddenly felt something. Trembling, she saw, in front of her, the spiritual light of heaven and earth converging. Slowly, it formed the silhouette of a tall figure. The figure seemed to extend its hand and gently clenched towards the sea of death. Instantly, the magic sea was sucked into its palm, transforming into a dark crystal. The figure then extended both hands, lightly brushing the dark crystal. A faint cracking sound followed, and black powder scattered down. The devastating magic sea, capable of destroying heaven and earth, was effortlessly wiped away in its hand. At the Northern Song Spiritual Academy, countless eyes stared blankly at this scene. They had all been waiting in despair for death, but no one had expected the situation to suddenly turn around. Shock and awe filled their gazes as they turned to the tall figure, shrouded in spiritual light, before Luo Li. Who was this person, capable of effortlessly dissolving the Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor's earth-shattering attack? Who? The Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor's pupils contracted, and he shouted harshly, glaring at the spiritual figure. Amidst the stunned gazes, a clear and faint laugh suddenly echoed from the sky, resonating throughout the heavens and earth. Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor, if you want to run wild in this Northern Song Spiritual Academy, did you ever ask if I, Mu Chen, agree?